Today at 6, a new image of Catherine, Princess of Wales, is released as she reveals she's making good progress amid cancer treatment. In a personal message, the princess says she has good days and bad days and that she is learning how to be patient, but she is not out of the woods yet. We'll have her statement for you in full. Also this evening, Euro 2024 begins in Germany with Scotland in the opening game. To see the team take on the hosts, their first major tournament overseas for 2 decades.
I'll be live pitchside here in Munich, where Scotland face a daunting task and are aiming to pull off what would be one of the greatest wins in their history.
And we will also be with fans watching back home, including in Inverness, with kickoff within the next 2 hours. The E. coli outbreak. Experts think some supermarket sandwiches were the source. And Michael Mosley's last broadcast, part of today's BBC tributes to the man who helped so many improve their health.
On BBC London, remembering the 72 victims of the Grenfell fire exactly 7 years on. And 800 operations have been cancelled following the health service cyber attack.
Good evening. In the last few minutes, a personal message from the Princess of Wales has been released to the public nearly 3 months after she revealed she had been diagnosed with cancer. It has come amid a new image that was taken earlier this week in Windsor and a written statement in which she reveals that she will be attending Trooping the Colour, the King's official birthday, tomorrow. The full statement reads as follows. I have been blown away by all the kind messages of support and encouragement over the last couple of months. It really has made the world of difference to William and me and has helped us both through some of the harder times. I am making good progress, but as anyone going through chemotherapy will know, there are good days and bad days. On those bad days, you feel weak, tired, and you have to give in to your body resting. But on the good days, when you feel stronger, you want to make the most of feeling well. My treatment is ongoing and will be for a few more months. On the days I feel well enough, it is a joy to engage with school life, spend personal times on the things that give me energy and positivity, as well as starting to do a little work from home. I'm looking forward to attending the King's birthday parade this weekend with my family and hope to join a few public engagements over the summer. But equally knowing I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm learning how to be patient, especially with uncertainty, taking each day as it comes, listening to my body and allowing myself to take this much needed time to heal. Thank you so much for your continued understanding and to all of you who have so bravely shared your stories with me. Well, when the Princess revealed her diagnosis towards the end of March, she said it had come as a huge shock and revealed that she had been receiving chemotherapy since late February. Our royal correspondent, Johnny Diamond, reports.
A new picture of the princess from the palace to mark a new stage in her journey. It's been almost 3 months since the princess revealed that she was undergoing chemotherapy, something that followed surgery earlier in the year.
The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Since then, Prince William has worked alone and the palace has remained silent. Though last week, when asked about Kate's progress, the prince said she was getting better. She'd have loved to have been at the D-Day commemorations, he said. From the princess this evening, a message about these past long months. I'm making good progress, she wrote. But as anyone going through chemotherapy will know, there are good days and bad days. On those bad days, you feel weak, tired, and you have to give in to your body resting. But on the good days, when you feel stronger, you want to make the most of feeling well. My treatment, she wrote, is ongoing and will be for a few more months. Tomorrow is the King's birthday parade, trooping the colour, one of the biggest days of the royal year, and the Princess says she will be there, back in the public eye with her children. There may be more public engagements to come this summer, but each one will depend on the Princess's health. I am, the Princess wrote today, not out of the woods yet, but from Windsor comes a message and a picture that speak of hope for days to come. Johnny Diamond, BBC News.
Let's join Helena Wilkinson, our correspondent who is at Kensington Palace now. Helena, this comes across as a heartfelt statement with honesty about the ups and downs of cancer treatment.
Yes, exactly. And it's a positive step, isn't it, for the Princess of Wales since her cancer diagnosis. She has been very much missed from public engagements by her family and also the public. As Johnny mentioned in his report, Trooping the Colour tomorrow, a big international event, but also a family one. And it's very clear that Catherine wants to be there tomorrow to support her family. After tomorrow, we may see her at some events over the summer months, but it's only if she feels up to it, because as she has said in that very personal statement this evening, she is still undergoing treatment, and in her words, she has good and bad days. So going forward, still very much the focus will be on the Princess of Wales's recovery, and for that she will want privacy and space to get through that.
Helena, thank you very much indeed. So that news from Catherine, Princess of Wales, has been revealed in the last 5 minutes, and you can read the statement on the BBC website. Now, the first game of the men's Euros kicks off in less than 2 hours, with Scotland taking on the host Germany. The match is in Munich, where thousands of Scottish fans have travelled for what is the national team's first major tournament outside the UK for more than 25 years. And across Scotland too, fans have been gearing up for the match. You saw pictures a moment ago from Inverness, and everyone willing the team on, of course, against one of the favourites. We will join Lorna Gordon in a moment in one of the fan zones in Scotland. But first, our sports editor, Dan Rowan, who is pitchside in Munich. How is the atmosphere, Dan?
It's building, Mishal, as you'd expect. After all, this feels like the biggest party that Scottish football has enjoyed since the World Cup in 1998. And just like back then, this team faces the honour and the enormity of playing the opening match of a major tournament with the eyes of the world very much on them. So a daunting task against Germany, but the Scots will not be lacking in support, as Jane Dougal now reports.
It's become a familiar sound, ringing out across Munich. The Tartan Army has set up camp here, the central square of Marienplatz, a sea of saltires. Police eventually had to close it off to more supporters. The influx of fans left one bar struggling to cope.
So the Scots drank it all?
Yes, drank all, yeah.
The Scots drank all your beer, so you ran out?
We'll be coming down your road.
It wasn't a problem for the more resourceful. And all in preparation for this first match of the tournament. The Germans may have won the Euros 3 times, but history doesn't count in this adopted corner of Scotland. Though some may be viewing their chances through Scottish tinted spectacles.
2-1 to Scotland, I think.
I was going to say 2-1.
I'm going 2-1.
I want a goal for the celebrations, more than anything.
A win would be fantastic, don't get me wrong, that's what you dream of. But a goal to celebrate Scotland being the Euros would be insane.
You can feel the atmosphere building, you can sense it in the air that, yeah, this is Scotland.
The Scots have completely outnumbered the Germans here in the city centre. That won't be the case in the stadium, where Deutschland will have home advantage.
In a few hours' time, these stands at the Allianz will be full. Though Germany have had some fallow years, they do have high hopes for these Euros.
They could win it, of course. We are part of this tournament, and with the history German teams have got, of course, they're always amongst the favourites. I I see them having a good chance.
Squad had a walkabout in the city centre earlier, looking very relaxed before arguably the game of their international careers.
There's a lot of pressure on them to probably go on and win the tournament within this country, and they won't want anyone getting in the way of that. But it's up to us to try and put the first hurdle in front of them.
Countdown to kick-off is underway. Those who've travelled to watch their country, hoping the celebrations aren't premature. Jane Dougal, BBC News, Munich.
Well, as you may be able to see just behind me, Scotland's squad have just emerged onto the pitch in the last few moments. And look, they will start as underdogs. 23 places separate them and Germany in the world rankings. The hosts, they'll be desperate to try and summon the spirit of the World Cup, which they staged in 2006. But they're not the footballing force they once were, Germany. Scotland were very impressive in qualifying. They have some players who will trouble the hosts. All the pressure will be on Germany. If Scotland can pull this off, though, it will go down as one of, if not perhaps the greatest win in their history.
Dan Rowan in Munich, thank you very much. Let's turn then to what it's like for those watching at home, because Lorna Gordon is at the Broadwood Stadium in Cumbernauld with lots of fans around you, Lorna. What is the atmosphere like there?
Well, this is a huge day for Scotland fans. They're gathering here at the stadium in Cumbernauld. We'll have a chat with a couple of them just now. Chris, what are your hopes for tonight?
Absolutely buzzing. We are going to win these Euros. I'll tell the nation right now, we are winning these Euros. Come on!
Jan, you're here with your family. What do you make of the night this evening?
It's a fabulous evening for people who couldn't make it to Germany. We're here to celebrate. We've got to condense that celebration. We've only got 3 opportunities realistically, so we're here to celebrate.
Are you feeling hopeful?
I'm feeling really, really hopeful. At least, even if the rain keeps off, that'll be a win for us.
And it is a family event here. It'll be a very noisy one, isn't it?
It is. I love that the kids all know the song. It's brilliant.
You've obviously felt it's important to bring your family with you because it's history, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's a once in a generation event for us. You know, it was a long time since we went abroad, so this is wonderful. Yeah.
Jan, thanks very much for that. So yes, very noisy, very excited fans here in Cumbernauld as they wait for this game to get underway.
Lorna, thank you very much. No shortage of enthusiasm there. Now, the Prime Minister has warned Conservatives considering voting for Reform UK that they risk handing Labour a blank cheque at the general election. Rishi Sunak's comments after one opinion poll put Reform ahead of the Conservatives for the first time. Other polls have the Tories second to Labour. Here's our political editor, Chris Mason.
So here he is. It might only be one poll and it might only be a marginal lead, but it's what's making headlines on the campaign trail today, and Mr Farage is going to find a microphone. That poll from YouGov suggests Reform UK are ahead of the Conservatives. Now, we should always be sceptical of one newsworthy poll, but the reason I want to take you to this event today is Reform, the poll suggests, have undoubtedly been gaining support in this campaign.
Here we are.
They have, it appears, been catching up the Conservatives, with Labour miles and miles ahead.
The election is over. Who is going to be the opposition voice to Labour in the House of Commons and in the country?
Now, I wonder who he's got in mind. Are you dreaming of the moment of being the leader of the opposition, standing there at the dispatch box, potentially throwing questions at a Prime Minister Starmer if he wins?
I'd be very, very happy if somebody younger, better than me, comes along. But right at the minute, I do see myself as being that person. Yes, I do.
Steady on. Reform are an upstart party. This lectern's past its first flush of youth, and that is sticky tape holding up their logo. Are they even ready for this campaign?
Not really. The only way we can do this is we have to get the total number of votes well up over that 6 million figure, and if we do that, we will start to break through and win seats.
And that's because it's usually incredibly difficult for smaller parties to win seats at Westminster, even when lots of people across the country support them. There's another question too. Is he trying to overtake the Conservative Party, take over the Conservative Party, or finish it off? No sticky tape here down the road at a Conservative election event, but boy, plenty of Tories have noticed Reform's rise. How scared are you of Nigel Farage?
This poll today is a stark warning. I'm not going to underplay it. If a result like this is replicated at election day, Keir Starmer would have huge and unchecked power, and I think that is something that will actually concentrate the minds of everybody at home.
Yes, you guessed it. The Conservatives want to talk about Labour, who have their own views about Mr Farage themselves.
One thing I'd say to people about Nigel Farage is that he's never been tested on actually delivering on the change he campaigns for. He's never had that responsibility. If people want to see change in our country, change they can believe in, change the country can afford, the only way to deliver that change is by voting for Labour on July the 4th.
The grinning tormentor is revelling in all of this, but there have been false dawns for Nigel Farage before. The question is whether this time will be different.
We'll see you very, very soon.
Chris Mason, BBC News.
Well, let's explore the latest polling now, both how much weight can be given to the one that has suggested reformer ahead of the Conservatives and to the picture more widely. Our analysis editor, Ros Atkins, is here in the studio. Ros.
Mishal, thank you very much indeed. First, let's look at the trends that are emerging in the polls. This is the BBC's poll tracker. Using a range of polls, it shows the average support for each party through the campaign. Labour has a substantial lead, but actually both the Conservatives and Labour are slightly down. Smaller parties are moving up, the Lib Dems and also Reform UK, though I should emphasise here, it is 8 points behind the Tories on the BBC's poll tracker. But what about that YouGov poll that puts Reform UK ahead of the Tories? Here's Professor Sir John Curtis.
At the moment, at least, none of the other pollsters show Reform ahead of the Conservatives. Some of them show them not very far behind. And indeed, not every poll that's come out in the last few days has actually identified any increase in Reform support at all. So we need to be careful about just focusing on the one poll.
Now, through the campaign, you're sending us questions to Your Voice, Your Vote. And recently, Richard in Ramsgate asked us, as the polls stand, how would that relate to the number of seats won by each party? Well, under the first-past-the-post electoral system, smaller parties rarely have a number of MPs that matches their percentage of the national vote. So Reform's position in the polls is very unlikely to translate to an equivalent number of seats. Some bigger polls, called MRP polls, do project how each constituency will vote. All recent ones give Labour a majority of well over 100, some higher still, though, as with all polls, these projections should be treated with caution. Mishal, back to you.
Ros, thank you very much. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has a half-hour interview on BBC One at 7:30 tonight, part of the BBC's series of 7 leader interviews by Nick Robinson. Our political correspondent Leila Nathu has been listening to what the Labour leaders said. And Leila, what stood out to you?
Mishal, we are halfway through this election campaign. Labour's poll lead is intact. Keir Starmer got through his manifesto launch yesterday. It hasn't yet unravelled, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still questions about what wasn't in it and what Labour might actually have to do should it find itself in government. The Tories claim Labour have secret plans to put up further taxes if they get into power beyond the targeted tax rises they have already announced. But in his interview with my colleague Nick Robinson, Keir Starmer rejects the idea that he would have to cut spending or raise taxes or increase borrowing, and instead says the lever he intends to pull is that of getting economic growth going. And he is insistent he is going to go after this prize. Have a listen to this exchange about his pledge to reform the planning system.
Are you prepared to make enemies to make the economy grow?
Yes. We're going to have to be tough. We're going to have to change the way things are done. I'll give you one short example. I won't take long, but it makes my point. I spoke to the CEO of an energy company, say, how long would it take you to put a wind turbine farm up? He said, I could do it in 2 years. He said, you wouldn't get any power out of it for 13 years because I'd lose 5 years to planning, another 6 or 7 years before the grid connected. We cannot go on like that.
Keir Starmer saying, yes, he is prepared to make enemies to get the economy growing quickly. Pretty bullish about that prospect in the face of a fair bit of scepticism about that goal. Others who have come before him have tried and haven't succeeded after all. But 3 weeks to go now until polling day. This is Keir Starmer trying to reassure that things would be different under a Labour government.
Leila, thank you very much. The SNP's leader, John Swinney, has said that Westminster has failed Scotland fans as their qualifying games for the Euros were not screened on free-to-air TV. Mr Swinney is in Munich ahead of Scotland's game tonight, where he's been promoting the SNP's campaign to ensure that all of Scotland's games can air free on terrestrial TV. Laws over broadcasting are currently reserved to Westminster. The time is now 6:20, and our top story this evening. A new image of Catherine, Princess of Wales, has been released in the last 20 minutes. She says she's making good progress amid her ongoing cancer treatment. And coming up, the E. coli outbreak. Experts think some supermarket sandwiches were the source.
And on BBC London, a Met police officer who wrongly arrested a woman for bus fare evasion is fined for assault. And how small donations can make a big difference. The family who benefited from new ways of giving.
Now, with less than 3 weeks to go till polling day, we have another of our snapshots now of how the election looks in different parts of the UK. Let's hear from a series of BBC correspondents. In a moment, we'll have BBC Greater Manchester's political reporter Kevin Fitzpatrick, who's in Bolton. But first, Brendan Hughes, who's BBC Northern Ireland's political reporter and joins us from Belfast. Brendan.
Well, Northern Ireland has a very different political landscape than the rest of the UK and a very different set of political parties here. In total, there are 18 constituencies across Northern Ireland, but one of the key battlegrounds will be here in East Belfast. Now, East Belfast is home to Northern Ireland's devolved government at Stormont. We also have in the distance behind me the shipyard which famously built the Titanic, and in more recent years, film studios here have been used on the likes of the hit fantasy drama series Game of Thrones. But for this particular Game of Thrones in this constituency, it's really shaping up to be a head-to-head battle between two party leaders. On the one hand, we have the incumbent, Gavin Robinson, the new leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, but he's facing a challenge for his crown from Naomi Long, the leader of the Alliance Party. Now, both of these party leaders have faced each other in previous Westminster clashes, but on the last occasion in 2019, the gap between them, that margin of votes, had narrowed to around 1,800 votes. So people will be watching this result very closely this time around whenever it comes around next month. But for this stage of the campaign, with more candidates in the race this time around, at this point, it's too close to call.
Brendan, thanks very much for that update. And from Belfast, let's turn to Kevin in Bolton.
Well, this is Bolton North East, one of a number of seats in Labour's North West heartlands which went blue for the first time in decades in 2019. 60% of people here voted for Brexit. They rang the bells on the town hall behind me to celebrate it. And it was Boris Johnson's promise to get that done, as well as his pledge to level up the country and grow local economies in places like this where many people struggle to make ends meet, which helped him sweep to victory. 5 years on, though, and there's frustration that the levels of immigration that some people here worry about have continued. The cost of living pressures have only increased. And while there have been a couple of pockets of levelling up cash to spruce up the town centre here, the transformational change that many people were hoping for just hasn't materialised. The Conservative MP here, Mark Logan, recently announced he wouldn't be standing again. In fact, he said he'd be supporting Labour at this election. In 2019, he'd won with a majority of just 378, one of the most marginal constituencies in the country. So it wouldn't take many of his former constituents to follow his example for Labour to retake this seat.
Kevin, thank you very much. And a full list of the candidates standing in the general election is available on the BBC News website. Food manufacturers are recalling a small number of products understood to be sandwiches containing salad leaves after concerns over recent cases of E. coli. More than 200 people have been affected, some of them hospitalised, and experts have been trying to identify the source of the outbreak. Our health editor Hugh Pym is with me now. What do we know, Hugh?
Well, Michelle, more than a week ago, we were told by health officials that over 100 people had been affected by an outbreak of the E. coli bacteria, a strain known as S-Tech, which was said to be clinically serious. Now, the problem was they were spread right around the UK, so it was hard to trace the source of this outbreak. They did say then that it was probably a nationally distributed food product. Well, today we've learned there are more than 200 cases, and of those contacted, more than 40% have been in hospital or had hospital treatment. And 2 large food manufacturers have recalled products, sandwiches and wraps with salad leaves, more than 50 of them. And they've been taken off the shelves in retailers like Aldi, Asda, Co-op, Morrison's and Tesco. Now, it's said to be a precautionary measure. It doesn't mean all these were definitely affected, but clearly this is the result of advice from officials. And to individuals who are worried, if you have the symptoms, severe diarrhoea or stomach cramps, is to stay away from those who are vulnerable. Stay off work, stay off school, and it should pass through within about 48 hours.
Hugh, thank you very much. There'll be a special programme on BBC One later this evening to remember and honour the life and work of Dr. Michael Mosley. It's 5 days now since his body was discovered on the Greek island of Symi after he went missing while on holiday. In his last broadcast, the BBC presenter who helped millions live more healthy lives through diet and small changes spoke about his approach and the benefits of cold showers. Our arts correspondent David Silito reports.
Too healthy, much, much, much too healthy.
Michael Mosley, and a TV tribute to a man who really did change lives. A guinea pig guru
Weird.
Of healthy living who tested out the science.
No, I'm not actually looking forward to this.
One devotee, Pilates teacher Gillian Byrne.
He has transformed the life of myself and all of my Pilates clients over the last many years, because every single Pilates class, and I've got to do it now, we are balancing on one leg. We are often trying to imagine cleaning our teeth with our non-dominant hand. We are squatting every day.
You're absolutely onto something here, because...
And the list goes on. This footage shows his final public appearance at the Hay Festival, here extolling the benefits of a cold shower.
And I cannot say it is a moment of bliss. It's normally followed by a lot of screaming, a sort of, ah! Oh!
That a man so full of life could go so suddenly has been a shock, but this is a moment to reflect and celebrate what he meant to so many.
Health.
Among them, Claire Yates, who, when she met him, had a chance to say thank you for a diet that really did change her life.
So I was able to reverse type 2 diabetes. I've been diabetes free ever since. It was a life-changing impact, and I do say that he saved my life, because without him I wouldn't have had the tools to take ownership of my own health and well-being.
Trust me, I'm a doctor.
And Claire is just one of many giving thanks today to a man whose legacy is happier, healthier lives.
Good-looking guy. I'd trust him.
David Silito, BBC News.
And the special programme is on BBC One at 8 o'clock tonight, and there is another available now on BBC Sounds. Just before we go to the weather, do have a look at these pictures. Twin baby elephants have been born in central Thailand in what is being called a miracle by their keepers. Only 1% of elephant births produces twins, and it's even more rare, apparently, to have a male and female combination, as these two are. Both are said to be happily feeding from the mother, but one is smaller than the other. The smaller female calf needs a stool to reach her mother. Let us turn to the weather, Ben, with Ben Rich. Ben.
Nothing that cute over here, I'm afraid, Mishal. What on earth is the weather going to throw us next this weekend? Well, what it will throw us is a lot of showers. We've had plenty of heavy downpours today. Big shower clouds here for a weather watcher in County Antrim. This is how it looks on the satellite and radar picture. Some of those showers have been really heavy, some flashes of lightning, some rumbles of thunder, and those bands of showers are just going to continue to circulate around an area of low pressure. So through this evening, some further hefty downpours. Many of them will fade overnight, but across the north of Scotland, rain will continue. Some further showers pushing in towards the west. Temperatures where we see clear skies and light winds, parts of southern Scotland, northern England. It will get a little bit chilly, but here is our area of low pressure. This is the engine room of our weather right now. Weather systems just circulating around that low, so we'll see plenty of showers around again tomorrow, some heavy thundery ones. Now, it's going to be quite windy down towards the south of England, Wales, the Midlands, so with those strong winds, the showers should blow through fairly quickly. But parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England, southern Scotland, the winds will be lighter, so where those showers do crop up, well, they could be with you for quite some time, could give you a real dump helping of rain. Temperatures 14 to 17 degrees, so still below par for the time of year. Some more persistent rain then pushes into the northeast of Scotland. This little weather system hurtles its way southwards and then becomes slow moving as we get into Sunday. So a band of rain, parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England. Either side of that, low pressure still in charge, so it is still that mix of sunny spells, some heavy showers, but maybe just a little bit warmer, 14 to 19, possibly 20 degrees in the southeast of England. Does summer arrive next week weather-wise? Well, it does get a little bit warmer, but only a little bit, and it's still quite mixed. Mishal.
Ben, thank you very much. And that is the BBC News at 6. It is now time to join our colleagues for the news wherever you are. From us, goodbye.